As global fears rise due to the potential continuation of the pandemic situation, there is a very specific relationship that perhaps implies this time is not indeed different. With that said, welcome back to EllioTrades channel. I'm your host Krown again today, and we have a fun one today as I want to go over a unique relationship between the dollar index and Bitcoin and what it potentially means for this current situation going on. Before I get into it, I should let you know that I have my own channel in the link in the description below, of which we go over a daily analysis on Bitcoin, and you're more than welcome to hang out there if you so desire. Okay, cool. So let's explain the situation here. Now, I can't use a C word because YouTube doesn't like that word, so I'm just going to refer to it as the good old flu. Well, it's not great, but you know my meaning. Anyways, with that in mind, the situation is, as of yesterday, that there is a new strain of the flu around. And just like in March 2020, there was an initial volatile response in markets, of course. If we go over here to Bitcoin, we can just highlight this. I'm sure many people remember it, especially if you're around during 2020, where Bitcoin took a good old dump-ola from 10,000 all the way down to actually below 4,000 for a second there, or sorry, below 5,000 for a second there, within the course of a week or two. Now, once again, we have new fears of this situation perhaps worsening or just being reignited, as it was it kind of felt like things were under control for a while here, especially in the last 6 months. So what was the response last time? Well, initial response, again, very, very volatile. Again, about a almost 50% move to the downside on a closing basis. But what made Bitcoin and cryptocurrency by extension very interesting, alongside other assets as well, is that things went absolutely lunar afterwards. As you can see, the result for the year or so following March 2020, basically into, well, March, April, and May of 2021, just a straight general upshot with a weekly trend reversal, and it was glory times all the way around. So what essentially propelled that situation? It wasn't the flu itself, it was the response that central banks and whatnot had to it, which was essentially to print more money. By the way, there's a ton of money being printed before, but they just turned on the money printers a little bit more. And on top of that, there was what was called reverse repos going on, meaning that the Federal Reserve was injecting liquidity into the stock market. And what I believe we're actually looking at is a liquidity bubble, where liquidity and just the access to funds is so easy as of the last year and a half now, that markets, well, had to go up as people were buying assets with their currencies that were likely being heavily devalued. So we can actually look at the dollar and its value relative to other fiat currencies. Of course, right here, we're looking at the dollar's value to Bitcoin, but we also want to get an idea of the health of the dollar, as that's what most things are marked against. And we can do that through this chart over here, which I'm going to put on a candlestick formation right here. And something very interesting happened on Friday amidst the announcement of this, well, new issue that we have going on in the world. And what do we see? We see, of course, what is called a doji candlestick right here. Some people might call it the shooting star, whatever you might call it. Doji's bodiless candlesticks are essentially a signal of indecision and perhaps even reversal. Not only that, but that was also, if I'm giving away my hand right here, the measured move off of what was a W formation bottom. If I actually do this properly, I was right around there. Okay, so it's very likely to have a pullback from that region. Yes, and also this order block over here. Fair enough. My point is that we have a potential reversal in the dollar index. Is that relevant in and of itself? Well, not so much in and of itself, because the dollar index is the dollar's value compared to a basket of other fiat currencies, which most people do not know who harp on this point, and where I really want to differentiate this content. However, it does give us an insight to the general situation. And regardless of which country is printing, this again is going to come within the context of which country is printing more in comparison to the US. So if the dollar index is going up, that means that the dollar is strengthening versus other fiats, but all countries can essentially be printing at the same time. Regardless of that fact, there does seem to be a very interesting relationship here on Dixie, the dollar index, versus the weekly trend on assets, and well, Bitcoin is very much an asset, a hard asset, you might even call it as well. So what I'm going to focus on here is the weekly trend, and I'm going to mark off all of the weekly trend reversals and then correlate that to Bitcoin and see if there's anything very interesting popping up here. So I've already gone ahead and done the work for you right here. It's actually kind of fun to do. Got my good old Christmas colors out. It was good times. And I've marked off all of the starts of these trends with these numbers. So I want you to kind of visualize this in your mind. Also marked it off like color coordination because, well, why not? Having fun with that. And green essentially is an uptrend in Dixie, red is a downtrend, green uptrend, red downtrend, and so on and so forth, as you might guess. Now, let's go relate that to Bitcoin. And I'm going to first call out some dates here. Going back to November 2011, all the way up to essentially June 2012, Dixie was in an uptrend. And if Dixie was in an uptrend during that time, what was Bitcoin doing? Well, we can go reference that data over here. And I'm going to put on my drawing tools right here. And that was the first number one. That was right here, August 2011, all the way over to February 2012. Bitcoin was in a downtrend. Dixie was in an uptrend. Interesting. Then, starting June 2012 to April, May of 2014, Dixie was in a downtrend. What was Bitcoin doing? It was doing this move right here. Rather impressive, if I might say so myself, on that move from $12 all the way to $1,000. Very interesting. Number two, again, just right there. Then number three, let's go back on over here. Starting, of course, in August 2014, we had an uptrend all the way through March 2015. Well, where was that? Right here. And two right here, basically getting the lows. And there are some discombobulated parts in this that essentially refers to the consolidation, of course. But I wouldn't mark the next uptrend in Bitcoin nor Dixie until here. Or in Dixie, this would be a downtrend, obviously. And what do we have? Starting November 2016 all the way to March 2018, down on Dixie. And what was Bitcoin doing? It was going all the way up from 575 to its ripe old price of 20,000. And that was your number four right there. Number five, from, of course, if we start off over here, February 2018 or March 2018, all the way to March 2020, Dixie was in an uptrend. What was Bitcoin doing? It was doing this whole correction right here, starting with number five at the top, boom, the whole way through, consolidating below the $20,000 all-time highs. And this is why a weekly chart is very important, because while we did have a nice rally in 2019, it did not break the prior highs. So this was not your macro breakout. Then, of course, we have the next one right on over here. And as you can see, starting with number six, we see a downtrend in Dixie starting March 2020, that ever eventful time, all the way through June 2021. What was Bitcoin doing during that time? Well, basically a straight moonshot from 5,000 all the way to 65,000. Not bad right there. And then, of course, more recently, we did see Dixie pick itself up off the lows and rally up all the way to that $97 target, of which right now we're seeing a little bit of weakness there, perhaps even a reversal. And what has Bitcoin been doing during this time? It's been consolidating between its prior all-time high and, of course, our $30,000 macro low right here. So what does this essentially imply over a long period of time? Well, if we do see a reversal, a confirmed reversal on the weekly here for Dixie, which I do think there is at least a good chance to see, as again, we do have a reversal formation in play. It is unconfirmed, however, but we do have several points of influence. We do have one coming up to this order block right here, two, the measured move off of the W formation bottom, and actually three, which I forgot to mention earlier, we do see that weekly stochastic momentum oscillator is going to be turning down with any sort of a closure next week below 95.5. Now this number will change and rise as we get the next open. Unfortunately, it's not trading over the weekend, so there's not really much to, well, I imagine it's just gonna be higher, or extremely likely it's gonna be higher. We're also gonna see volatility start to tick up here on Dixie. So what does that essentially imply? We could very well see a reversal right there. How would we confirm a reversal right here? I'd want to see at minimum next week, so this coming week, trade below the low of what we closed on just yesterday, Friday, for Dixie, that being 95.753. Below there, things become a lot more likely. If you want to be a little more conservative, which I do think is appropriate in this situation, I'd be waiting for a weekly closure below last week's low. That would confirm a weekly reversal for myself, targeting moves to the downside. Still would have a lot of work to do over time, to be fair. It doesn't really give you a macro reversal until you come back down below about 93.5, but that would be the next piece of the puzzle to be looking for in order to, well, play out the next potential major upside move for Bitcoin. So how long can this take? As I've postulated in prior videos, I think that this can take a very long time, a lot longer than what I think many people are prepared for, but that is okay. Remember, Bitcoin is basically consolidating here as long as you're between about $65,000 and $30,000 low. And as we went over yesterday's video, I do suspect that Bitcoin likely has more downside to go, just a little bit more, perhaps anywhere between $47,000 to $51,000 is where I'm looking for on a potential major low. Could it be where we're coming at right now? It's possible, yes, we are getting a nice bounce intraday here for the weekend, but I suspect it's probably just going to be that. Bitcoin, as long as it's below $59,000, and by extension, the general cryptocurrency market is in a downtrend, and I have no reason to call a major reversal until that condition is reversed. So that would be my conditions for that, for invalidation and validation of more immediate bullishness. Until then, short-term moves to the upside, yep, completely fine. We can rally up all the way to $58,000, and I'd still be looking at that as another lower high in this case. And then we really want to come back next week, at the end of next week, and look at where Dixie is and see if it confirms that reversal, which will give us the next piece of the puzzle and really help our biases coming in for, well, the next month or two to come. So I hope that this was helpful. Again, a bit of a interesting relationship right there, but as you can see right now, if we were to, I don't know, see something like this with a top out right here and turn back down, that would be essentially what you are looking for on that relationship to imply that Bitcoin is, well, going to continue upwards and onwards over the long period of time, which I am still very much bullish on the macro into probably the midpoint at minimum of 2022, potentially even all the way to Q4 of 2022. Anyways, I will leave the video off right there. I'll let you make the decision for yourself. Hopefully that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.